Welcome to the Anxiety Connection. If you've ever struggled with anxiety and are ready to finally get some answers, you've come to the right place. Hi, my name is Wendy Leeds, and I've suffered with anxiety my entire life. Thankfully, I'm also a psychotherapist, and over the years, I've learned a lot about anxiety, where it comes from, and how to manage it. That's what this podcast is all about. So, let's grab a cup of tea and talk about it. Welcome to the Anxiety Connection. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I'm going to talk about the power of forgiveness. If you're suffering, if you feel overwhelmed with the pain from the past, stay tuned because I'm going to share my life-changing belief about how changing a single thought can help you get beyond your pain to a future of peace and calm. I worked for Weight Watchers for years as a leader, and for all those years, I carried with me what I called the wand of forgiveness. Now, this wand was definitely not a thing of beauty. I made it myself by cutting out a hand-sized star from a piece of cardboard. I wrapped it in tin foil and I taped it to the end of a wooden ruler. It wasn't much to look at, but my members loved it. They're always saying, "We need the wand of forgiveness, Wendy. We need the wand of forgiveness." Because they instinctively knew that wand gave them the power to forgive and start fresh without the guilt or shame keeping them tied to the past. In fact, a couple of years after I left Weight Watchers, I was visiting a family member in the hospital when a nurse came running after me, calling my name, "Wendy, Wendy." And when I turned around, I recognized her as a longtime member, and we greeted each other. And the first thing she said was, "I need the wand of forgiveness. I have been so out of control. I need a new start. Can you help me?" Well, I told her I didn't carry the wand with me anymore, and she was really disappointed. So I told her I was now carrying the pen of forgiveness. I took a pen out of my purse, waved it in the air, and said a few words about letting go of the past, allowing herself to forgive any wrongdoing, and starting fresh. We agreed the pen of forgiveness worked just as well as the wand of forgiveness. But that's what I want to talk to you about today. That feeling of being back in control and finding the sense of power and focus in the future that comes from forgiving your past. As I see it, there are two sides of the coin of forgiveness. One side is forgiving yourself, and the other side is forgiving others. I think maybe forgiving yourself might seem a little more difficult, but I think the impact on your life and the steps you take to heal are very much the same for both. Let's start by looking at how not forgiving yourself or others shows up in our lives. Not forgiving keeps you tied to your past. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you reliving that injury against you over and over, detail by detail, frame by frame. Not forgiving causes our bodies to release stress hormones. Not forgiving can raise our blood pressure, impact our heart health, and our immune system. It can also increase symptoms of anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. And as you may know, it can cause unrelenting, constant pain. Not only that, not forgiving robs you of your present. It keeps you from enjoying all the good things you have in your life today. It threatens relationships, both today and into the future. That's what not forgiving looks like in your life. Pretty high price to pay. All right, let's look at forgiveness. If you look up forgiveness in the dictionary, you'll see it's defined as letting go of past grudges or lingering anger against a person, including you, or persons. But I see forgiveness a little differently. I see it as a choice, a decision to let go of the past and move into the future without dragging that old sense of guilt, anger, or resentment behind you. So, here's your choice. You can keep yourself connected to that anger, or you can start working to dissolve your connection to that old hurt by taking steps to forgive. Are you ready? Let's begin by agreeing it's too late to go back and change the past. Isn't possible. I know, I've tried. You cannot change what was done to you. You cannot change what you did. It's over. It's done. But what you can change is the way you think about the past. And you can change the story you tell yourself about what happened. All right. I hear you arguing back at me, Wendy. That's ridiculous. Are you nuts? I can't change that story. What happened, happened. What I did, I did. What was done to me was done to me. Besides, I can't forgive the hurt. I was betrayed. I was humiliated. I was violated. There's no way I'm going back and forgive that offender. There's no way I can change what happened. There is no way I'm going to do this, ever. I hear you. I hear your pain. I want to acknowledge right here and now, I get it. The story you've been telling yourself, the pain of the past, what happened to you was awful. It was unbearable. And until today, unforgivable. What you did was awful. It was embarrassing, shameful. And until today, unforgivable. But please, hear me out. Please open your heart to how different your present and future might look if you didn't have to keep suffering such pain, or at least if you could lessen it. What if there was a way you could think about things differently and stop feeding your pain with the same old thoughts and the same old story of suffering? Because I think there is. I want to begin here by specifically focusing on forgiving others. And let's start by looking at what forgiving others is not. Forgiving others is not about trying to get an apology, because that's probably not going to happen. It's not about excusing their behavior. It's not trying to get them to change their behavior. In fact, forgiveness has nothing to do with the offender. Let me say it again. Forgiveness has nothing to do with the offender. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. This is about bringing peace to your heart and your life. This is about you. Someone once said, not forgiving is like drinking rat poison and waiting around for the rat to die. I think that's exactly right. Holding on to old hurts, thinking about revenge or retribution is nothing but poison for you and for your body. It's poison. So how do you forgive? I don't think it's easy. Well, I know it's not easy, but here are 3 steps you can take to begin the process. Number 1, decide this is really important to you. Decide you're ready to make a choice here. You're ready to think about things differently. Remind yourself that forgiving can heal your body and your spirit and clear your way to a peaceful, wonderful future. And as I've said, I believe forgiveness is a choice. Why not decide today that you're ready to make a choice and you're ready to make a change? Number 2, this is the hard one. The second step is to be willing to look at things differently. And today, I want to share this powerful, life-changing belief with you. I urge you at least to be open to hearing me out, and then giving this new vision of how to think about people around you at least a fair shake. Are you ready? Put on your seatbelts. Here it is. Everyone is doing the best they can. I can imagine you are already arguing, Wendy. They were not doing the best they could. There was no best involved in this. They were wrong. Again, let's acknowledge together what happened to you was horrible. Your parent or parents abused you. Your partner betrayed you. A friend stabbed you in the back. A doctor, teacher, or professional harmed you permanently. Someone cheated you. They took your home. They took your profession. They took your children. I'm not saying the person who did this to you was in any way right. This was not okay. What I'm asking you to think about is to take a moment and consider their side of the story of what happened, to put yourself in their shoes. What if the person who harmed you wasn't capable of doing better? What if they didn't know how to do better? What if they were too hurt, angry, or afraid to do better? What if your parents failed as parents? What if they abused you, neglected you, or harmed you in a way because that's how their parents treated them? What if they just didn't know how to do better? What if your partner grew up in a wildly dysfunctional home and never had a chance to even see a good relationship, let alone participate in one? What if they just didn't know how to be a good partner? Take a few moments and put yourself in the shoes of the person who injured you. What do you know about them? What do you know about who they are, how they were treated as a child? Is there something difficult going on in their lives? Are they dealing with illness or stress or loss or grief? I want to share with you a story of one of the worst customer experiences in my life. This woman was beyond rude. She was dismissive. She was arrogant. She cost me days of effort and worry. Oh, and in the end, she was wrong, really wrong. And not only did she not apologize, she continued to be downright nasty. I remember feeling outraged at her rudeness. And as I say this, I am starting to feel all those feelings again. I want you to know at the time, I was not putting myself in her shoes. I wasn't even thinking about forgiving her. I didn't want to forgive her. I didn't plan on ever forgiving her. She did not deserve to be forgiven. I was so angry. I told everyone I met for months about this woman. She was despicable. She was unprofessional. Stay away from her. Don't go in there. This was years ago. But if it had been today, I might have yelped her. But I'm really glad I didn't. Because a few months later, a neighbor mentioned to me that they knew this woman well. And they told me her only child, her son, was dying of AIDS. And she was a single parent caring for this child and trying to work full time. For me, hearing her side of the story changed the story. She was no longer that rude, angry woman who caused me such misery. She was a grieving mother, struggling to show up, doing the best she could. The belief helped me forgive and move forward without the weight of my anger. So, what about the person who harmed you? What's their side of the story? Because here's the deal. When you shift your focus from your pain to theirs, that changes the story you tell yourself. And as you change that story, you get to stop casting yourself as the helpless victim in the story because you're no longer helpless. When you take steps to forgive yourself and change the story, you get to become the courageous hero who reclaims their sense of power and control by forgiving. You get to take back your life. All right. But what if the person you need to forgive is you? What if you've done something, said something, or even thought something so awful you just can't forgive? The way you left a relationship, the bankruptcy you filed, the lie you told, the mistake you made, the shame you brought on yourself and your family. How the heck do you forgive that? I believe you forgive yourself the same way you forgive everyone else, by acknowledging that you were doing the best you could. Remind yourself, everyone makes mistakes, including you. I know it's hard to admit, at least for me. It's really hard for me to admit that I'm not perfect, but I'm not. And neither are you. You messed up. You were wrong. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. But what was going on with you at the time? Were you afraid? Were you angry? Were you exhausted, overwhelmed? Or did you feel overlooked, forgotten, ignored, neglected? Here's what I believe, you beautiful human being, you. I believe you were doing the best you could. And I know for sure that you are better, bigger, and much more than one mistake. And it's time to forgive yourself. Now, there's one more step you can take to forgive yourself, and this is a tough one. The other step you can take is to apologize to the person you've harmed. If it's too hard to do in person, you can write a text, send an email. If you can't do it today, if you're not ready, think about maybe doing it in the future. If you harmed yourself, the same applies. Please apologize to you. Tell yourself you're sorry for how you harmed yourself by overeating, drinking, drugging, not speaking up for yourself, ignoring your needs in the face of other people's. Forgive yourself. All right, let's take out the wand of forgiveness or the pen or the shoe of forgiveness, whatever you have handy. Take it out and let's wave it together. Say your name out loud. I, Wendy, Susan, Fred, I, say your name and repeat with me. I now forgive myself for everything I did back then. I forgive myself for everything. And I now move into my future, free to live my life without the pain, the burden, and the weight of the past. I now set myself free. And so you do. Number 3, finally, please know there's no right or wrong way to forgive. Do the thing, practice this the way that feels best for you. And remember, forgiveness is a process. It takes time. You have to work at this a while. You may have to come back and practice letting go and again and again. But know that every time you forgive, your forgiveness muscle gets stronger and you move closer to healing your life and your spirit. Because here's the truth. When you forgive, you set yourself free. Thanks so much for being such an important part of the Anxiety Connection. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe. Until we're together again, I wish you peace, joy, and love.